The movie begins in a men's prison, where inmates are engaging in their daily exercise routine. Shortly after, an alarm sounds, signaling that all prisoners must return to their cells. Among them, one inmate sees an opportunity and corners Sam, a prison guard. Holding leverage over him, the inmate demands that Sam smuggle illegal items into the facility. He makes it clear that failure to comply will result in serious consequences. If Sam refuses, the inmate threatens to expose damaging information about him, ensuring that he will end up imprisoned himself and under the inmate's control. Fearful of the threat, Sam attempts to resist, leading to a physical altercation. However, the inmate overpowers him, leaving him with a deep cut on his face. Injured and shaken, Sam later visits the prison's medical facility to receive treatment for a possible head injury and get stitches. When other guards, including Tim, question him about the incident, Sam lies. He claims that the inmate had been causing trouble for some time and that the altercation occurred when he attempted to escort him back to his cell. According to his version of events, the inmate refused to comply, leading to a struggle where Sam had no choice but to defend himself. He insists that after pushing the inmate, he was headbutted, forcing him to use his nightstick in self-defense. One of the senior guards points out Sam's mistake was allowing the inmate to get too close instead of calling for backup. Concerned for his safety, the prison administration decides to move him to the watchtower, where he will have less direct contact with the inmates. A few days later, while stationed on the prison roof, Sam notices suspicious activity in the yard. Using a telescope to observe more closely, he soon witnesses a fight breaking out among the inmates. Reacting quickly, he sounds the emergency alarm. Guards immediately respond, rushing into the yard armed with tear gas. Others take a position on the rooftop, preparing to take control of the situation. Tear gas is deployed, affecting multiple inmates, but the fight continues. As the violence escalates, the guards resort to firing warning shots, which eventually force the prisoners to the ground. Just as order appears to be restored, two inmates suddenly turn on another prisoner, launching a brutal attack. The guards, fully equipped with protective gear, enter the yard and systematically restrain the inmates one by one. Meanwhile, from the rooftop, Sam watches the scene unfold, beginning to grasp the weight of his mistakes. Inside, Warden Mills, accompanied by guards Ed Simmons and Tim, discusses the situation. They agree that after the recent issue involving Daryl Johnson, it was best to keep Sam separated from the inmates. However, Warden Mills is displeased and questions why Sam was stationed in the tower in the first place. He insists that a new assignment must be found for him immediately. Tim argues that Sam was placed there for his safety after being attacked, believing it was the best way to keep him away from further harm. Ed suggests moving Sam to a different department, such as receiving, discharge, or perimeter patrol. Despite their reasoning, Warden Mills is unconvinced and asserts that Sam cannot stay in his current position. Tim continues to defend him, warning that the inmates will seize any opportunity to harm him. However, Warden Mills remains firm in his decision. Ignoring objections from Ed and Tim, he orders Sam's immediate transfer to a women's prison. To ensure the move goes smoothly, he enforces a temporary lockdown. The decision raises concerns among the guards, with some pointing out that Sam's presence in a women's prison could lead to new challenges. However, Warden Mills is unwavering, stating that if Sam cannot be trusted to handle male inmates, then he may not be suited for the job at all. He is left with two choices: accept the transfer or be removed from his position entirely. Following his transfer, Sam arrives at the women's prison, where he quickly notices the difference in atmosphere. As he steps aside to let the female inmates pass, some take the opportunity to make suggestive gestures, while others attempt to flirt with him. One inmate, Cherry, openly tries to get his attention as she enters the classroom. Mariam Meski, another officer, observes the interaction and immediately intervenes. She demands to know who authorized Sam's transfer. After he explains that it was for his protection following an incident at the male prison, she warns him that the female inmates are no different from the men. She cautions him that they, too, will try to manipulate him to their advantage. During a lesson on human evolution, Cherry subtly uses a small mirror to observe Sam, who stands at the back of the classroom. She stays focused on him rather than the lesson, making it clear that she is intrigued by his presence in the women's prison. Meanwhile, in the break room, a group of guards gathers to discuss the stark differences between the men's maximum security prison and the women's facility. Sam, still adjusting to his new assignment, makes a lighthearted remark that his first day at the women's prison feels more like a vacation compared to the men's facility, which he describes as a dangerous jungle. However, the more experienced guards warn him not to be fooled by the seemingly calm atmosphere. They explain that once night falls and the inmates are locked in their cells, things take a different turn. Unlike the men's prison, where aggression and violence are more direct, the women's facility presents a different kind of danger. The female inmates, they warn, will attempt to manipulate him by playing on his emotions. Many will cry, sharing heartbreaking stories, whether true or not, in an attempt to gain his sympathy. Others will fabricate complaints about guards watching them while they change clothes. The discussion takes a darker turn as the guards point out that inappropriate relationships between staff and inmates are not uncommon. They emphasize that these situations are not limited to male guards and female inmates. Corruption and exploitation exist across all genders. Sam listens carefully, realizing that his new role requires strict professionalism and emotional detachment. He is advised to act like a robot, following every rule precisely to avoid being drawn into the inmates' games. As bedtime approaches, the guards begin locking up each cell, moving methodically down the rows. During the routine inspection, they discover a confiscated phone in an inmate's possession. The offender is quickly dealt with, and Sam is instructed to continue securing the cells. When he reaches Cherry's cell, she appears to be casually reading a magazine. Checking in on her, he briefly asks if she is okay. She responds positively and requests her cell be locked. Without hesitation, Sam secures her cell and continues his duties. The following day, as Sam stands by the classroom door, overseeing the inmates as they move through the halls, an unexpected interaction takes place. Another inmate, seemingly on purpose, pushes Cherry into him. She grabs onto his jacket for support, but instead of letting go immediately, she holds on just long enough to whisper something suggestive. A nearby female guard who witnesses the exchange pulls Sam aside, warning him to stay focused and not let his emotions cloud his judgment. She emphasizes that the female inmates are just as dangerous as their male counterparts, albeit in a more cunning manner. Later that night, as Sam makes his rounds instructing the inmates to turn off their bunk lights, he arrives at Cherry's cell. To his shock, he finds her partially exposed, seemingly waiting for his reaction. He freezes, feeling a surge of conflicting emotions. His professional instincts tell him to look away and walk off, but his inexperience leaves him vulnerable. What neither of them realizes is that everything is being recorded by security cameras. The next day, while stationed in the control room, Sam notices Cherry behaving strangely. She appears weak and disoriented, swaying slightly as if she is about to collapse. Concerned, he asks if she needs medical attention. Cherry clutches her side and complains of pain, insisting that something is wrong. Unsure whether she is genuinely in distress, Sam follows procedure and prepares to escort her to the infirmary. As they walk through the facility, Cherry suddenly pulls Sam under the stairwell, where there are no cameras. It is a known blind spot, a place often used for secret meetings. Before Sam can react, she moves closer, suggesting that no one will see what happens between them there. He hesitates, trying to maintain control of the situation, but his resolve quickly wavers. Within moments, the situation escalates beyond his control. What happens next is completely unexpected. Cherry, who appears seductive just seconds earlier, suddenly turns violent. Without warning, she produces a makeshift weapon and stabs Sam multiple times in the neck. As he collapses, bleeding heavily, she begins screaming for help. Her cries echo through the halls, drawing immediate attention. To any outsider, it looks as though she has been attacked and has acted in self-defense. She crawls out from under the stairwell, continuing to scream, making sure that everyone sees her as the supposed victim of an assault. The incident sends shockwaves through the prison staff. Sam, a corrections officer with little experience, has fallen into a well-planned trap. The female inmates, accustomed to surviving in a world of manipulation and violence, have seen his vulnerability and exploited it. In the aftermath, authorities rush to investigate the incident. Some question whether Cherry has truly acted in self-defense or if there is another layer to the story. A forensic examination raises doubts about her version of events. There are no defensive wounds on her body, no scratches on her face or arms, and no signs that she has struggled against an attacker. Instead, the evidence shows that Sam has been stabbed repeatedly in a targeted manner, suggesting a calculated attack rather than an act of desperation. Adding to the mystery, another major incident occurs at the same time as Sam's stabbing. his uncle is murdered under suspicious circumstances. Investigators begin to question whether the two events are connected and if Cherry has been used as a pawn in a larger scheme. Despite the mounting evidence, navigating the legal complexities is challenging. Prison regulations and the nature of incarceration make it difficult to determine the truth. Some argue that as an inmate, Cherry has no real rights in the eyes of the system. Others counter that even prisoners are entitled to due process and should not be presumed guilty without a fair investigation. Authorities wrestle with how to handle the situation. Some investigators believe that they need to approach Cherry with compassion rather than threats, hoping to extract the truth by appealing to whatever humanity she has left. Others doubt whether such an approach will work, given the hardened nature of most inmates. In the end, the case leaves a lasting impact on the prison. It serves as a grim reminder of how dangerous the job of a corrections officer can be, not just physically, but psychologically. It is not always the most violent inmates who pose the greatest threat, but sometimes those who know how to manipulate, deceive, and strike when least expected. Sam's downfall is not due to brute force but to his innocence and lack of experience. The lessons he has been warned about come too late. In a place where trust is a rare commodity, he learns the hardest way that a single moment of vulnerability can mean the difference between life and death.